Yo. Always start badly. Yo. Welcome to the second episode of Green Habits. I've got George Beirne with me today. He's a friend from uni. Recently turned veggie. And yeah, safe to say you are a bit of a nutter, aren't you?
Yeah.
And he's always setting his goals high and working extremely hard, and you know, he's one of those people who can just set his mind to things and work really hard. And I think it's those sort of people that I want on board with the podcast, because you know, at the end of the day, we are trying to change the world, and I think George is a good person to have on board. So one example of him setting his goals high is a challenge he's enduring at the moment. So do you wanna say a tiny little bit about yourself and your challenge you set yourself?
Yeah, no, first of all, I'd like to say, thanks ever so much for having me on the podcast. It's great to be here.
No composure.
So a little bit about myself. So I've been vegetarian for 3 weeks now. I'm starting a challenge on Monday. Actually, it is the most challenging thing I've ever done in my life, where I will be running to and from work, essentially accumulating a half a marathon a day, until the opening ceremony of the Commonwealth Games. So I think it'll be about 38 days to go. So I haven't worked out how many miles that will be in total. But I'm looking forward to that, really, and yeah, that's
exciting. It's exciting to see if you will be able to do it on a veggie diet as well. See how that impacts your performance with it.
I mean, I've not noticed any sort of energy dip since turning vegetarian. That was one of the things that I was concerned about. I know something that I've always wanted to do is put on weight, which is in essence going to be a bigger challenge more than ever now that I'm vegetarian. However, it's not sort of my primary goal at the minute. My primary goal is completing this challenge starting Monday.
Yeah. No, you'd be surprised though, because I've been veggie a little bit longer, and I've actually been complimented recently, having done similar things, like just doing a lot more cardio and like things that involve energy.
Yeah.
And I've been complimented on how much size I've put on. So you'd be surprised that you can still get the protein in and stuff. We'll come on to that later down the line in the podcast, but you'd be surprised how much weight you can still get on, you know what I mean? Because you don't need the protein as much as everyone thinks you do. Like you need the carbs, are the most important thing for you providing your energy for work, and you can get that easily with a vegetarian diet, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I know you've recently changed up your lifestyle somewhat by having that 5 a.m. wake up.
Yeah.
And doing like an hour exercise in the morning, and that in itself is really sort of revolutionary, isn't it? And
in terms of myself, and my goals and achievements, definitely. I don't know if that's down to vegetarianism. Might just be two coming hand in hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
so, I know obviously the podcast is primarily going to be focused on being vegetarian and whatnot. But just a sort of side question then: would you say you're happier being a morning person as opposed to sort of a late night owl?
Yeah, definitely. What I like is when you're stuck in a 9 to 5, I find you exert all of your energy in those first 8 hours or 9 hours of the day, you know what I mean, from 9 till 5.
Yeah.
And then you get back from your work and you're like, you might go to the gym, but it's quite a half-assed session or stuff like that. But when you get up in the morning, your mind's fresh, you can do a bit of reading. Sometimes I'll read on the way back from the train, but I'm kind of falling asleep in the book, you know what I mean? You get up in the morning there, do 40 minutes of reading, read a chapter, maybe even 2 chapters of a book, and you get a lot more out of it. Do you know what I mean? You get a lot more. I feel like I've kind of explored my own passions a little bit more. Like,
Yeah,
that would be what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, you it's more time to yourself, isn't it? I guess when you do wake up at sort of 5 o'clock in the morning and you do have more energy for yourself as opposed to sort of putting it all into your work and then any hobbies that you've got to do in the evening.
I mean, that we cover a lot of that in the next episode, which is going to be about like adopting better habits and how to become a vegetarian, as opposed to what this one's going to be about.
Mm-hmm.
So if we move on to the actual nitty-gritty stuff, we're going to be talking about why it's important to be vegetarian and, well, why is it important to have that why?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm serious about converting other people to be vegetarian, it's important that they understand what the benefits of being it are, and if you are trying to make any lasting change in any sort of habit, it is important to understand that why, because then it becomes a part of your identity. You know what I mean? And it's a lot more difficult then to say or to make that choice of leaving the meat out in the supermarket and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You want to be a role model essentially for vegetarianism.
No, yeah, not necessarily a role model, just to put on the plate, why it is important, and establishing that why. I've learned from some of Simon Sinek's work. I don't know if you're familiar with Simon Sinek.
Yeah, it does ring as well. Yeah,
he's always popping up. He was always popping up on my YouTube. Anyway, he's a really good inspirational talker. But I recently read his book, Start with the Why. And he talks about he gives one example being Apple and how they're able to constantly innovate because they've got the core identity of why, and their why is doing things. What's their
doing things differently? Maybe, I don't know. Or
think different, isn't it? Their slogan thing, and I think, because they've got that foundation, that's why they're able to produce all of these different products, and everyone just gets on board with it because.
And they've got the environment, haven't they? Where they've got sort of the brightest minds, all in one.
Yeah, but it's bright minds. But it's not just bright minds that are into computers. It's bright minds that are into innovating,
living better.
Yeah, living better and living more practically, which is why they're able to bring out AirPods and watches.
Mm-hmm.
And then he talks about comparing them to the likes of Dell, who are another big computer brand, and they tried to diversify into like MP3 players, but no one got on board with it because everyone was like, "Why are you bringing out an MP3 player? You're a computer company."
Mm-hmm.
And so, if I can try and help people to understand why it's important to be vegetarian, then everyone, it's not just about giving up meat, it's more coming up with creative ideas as to how to eat better with a vegetarian diet.
So why do you think it is important to be?
Well, I was going to ask you the same question, to be fair. That was the next part.
Yeah, okay. So
how have you changed 3 weeks ago?
I think I've done it, I would say, maybe it is a little bit cliche, but on a spiritual level, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a massive carnivore before going vegetarian.
Yeah.
At uni, my go-to was steak and rice. You know what I mean? Quick and easy, get that done in 5 minutes. Bing bang bosh.
Yeah.
We've
all been there.
Chicken breast. That just meat was my diet. You know what I mean? And I still have them cravings. I'll be honest. You know what I mean? I do occasionally just have a little wonder. Over the past 3 weeks, when I have been in Asda, just down the meat aisle, and thought, I wouldn't mind picking up some barbecue ribs tonight and having a bit of a feast. But yeah, so it's definitely not been because of the taste. Absolutely not. Um, it has been sort of more on a spiritual level. I think just having been to Monte House, a beautiful festival, and I guess experimenting with psilocybin.
Yeah,
That
that's been known to.
gave me a slight perspective shift.
Yeah,
And you know, I just thought, as I was walking back to the tent as we were glamping, looking at the trees looking back, just kind of made me think, what are we doing to this planet?
that's interesting. One thing that's interesting you said there was how you had your carnivore diet and you used to just whack on a steak and a chicken. And one thing I came across the other day was that Game Changers program. So I'm going to go on to talk about that in a sec. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
And they talk about how it has just been ingrained into our society to just, whack on a big piece of meat. Because that is what makes you feel like masculine. That's just what men do, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And
like around a barbecue and whatnot.
Yeah, it was like McDonald's advertisements that McDonald's and like loads of other meat companies, Burger King in like the 80s and 90s when they were coming about, it was their marketing that really made us feel that was the masculine thing to do. But realistically, it's not actually. Well,
it's not
the only way.
It's not like they're the ones hunting the animals down, with the spear and.
Yeah, exactly.
And if they were, then you could say, fair enough, and he's just hunting down like a gazelle and
but it's kind of similar to smoking, isn't it? Back in the day, like in the 20s, cool. Yeah, it was cool. That's just the thing to do, but it's not
like James Dean, I guess.
Yeah.
Sort of the
exactly, but
poster boys back
before before these massive marketing campaigns, you could even call it ambush marketing. Before these marketing campaigns, people. It wasn't really the thing to do. Meat was something that was quite hard to come by, from what I know anyway.
Yeah, I think so as well. And, I was having a look at the facts earlier. 50 billion chickens a year get killed for food.
Yeah, would you say that's what you mean when you say spiritual level, thinking about animals getting killed?
Yeah, I mean...
Or would you say it's more the environment and climate change and that sort of thing?
I was kind of alluding more to the lives of the animals, as opposed to the impact that eating them has on global warming. Because you could probably tell me a little bit more information about that, actually. Because I'm not too familiar with... I've not done much research. I'm not
going to claim to be an expert.
Yeah.
I've got a few little facts and figures.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously, I think, are you familiar with the whole greenhouse gas issue? And the fact the more greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane, stuff like that, the more of that that's emitted into the atmosphere. That forms a layer then of gases, and then the sun comes down, heats up, or radiates the earth, and then reflects more radiation back off the earth, and then historically that would bounce back out into space. But now, due to the carbon dioxide or greenhouse gas layer, it's radiated back into the earth again, and that process essentially is slowly heating up the earth.
So how does having a carnivorous diet, how does that increase greenhouse gases?
Firstly, a lot of the processes of feeding the animals isn't a very efficient process. So things like machinery, getting rid of the manure. Well, the worst thing with animals in that respect, I think, is the methane. The methane is 30 times more damaging, or 30 times more when methane is in the atmosphere, it reflects 30 times more of the radiation. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Which is
Cows,
what cows
they release a lot of methane.
yeah, when they're farting and belching and you know what cows do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That and then it's a lot in the logistics of it, getting all of the livestock to the animals, that sort of thing. I think the biggest one for me.
Just on that though, so that's obviously to do with transportation.
Yeah.
Even if we were to have a vegan or vegetarian lifestyle, there would still be transport involved.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. To be honest, I'm not 100% clued up on that reason, but
yeah,
the biggest for me is
it was
the
interesting.
land.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? It's the use of land, because land. So having the average American diet, the average American meat consuming diet takes up 20 times that of a vegetarian Indian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Due to the fact, for example, when cows, so like my uncle is a farmer, my granddad used to be a farmer, they use 4 fields, maybe a few more, to walk the cows around them to eat the grass. And obviously, if you could use those 4 to 6 fields
to grow potatoes,
to grow crops,
it's
just a far more. And then obviously you can harvest them once every 2-3 years, whereas a cow would live up, it needs to live a whole lifetime before you're able to slaughter it and eat its meat. And when you think about the growing population, we've got 7-8 billion people on Earth now. I think that's supposed to be up to about 9 billion, 10 billion over the next 50 years. And we've also got about 1 billion starving children on Earth. Why not use our land more practically going forward? And then there's also the water issue. So these numbers are just crazy. So 60,128,000 pounds of water is required for potato, wheat and rice. Whereas £1, you get that? So about 60 million pounds of water for potatoes and veg and that. And £1 so that's for a pound of water, 60 million pounds of water, and a pound of beef requires 18,000 million pounds. What's that? 18 billion pounds of water. Chicken requires 3 billion. So again, it's minuscule.
It's a lot of water.
It's a lot of water. It's a lot of water. I think you talked earlier about the fact rain feeds them, or rain. What would you call it? Drinks them.
They drink the rainwater.
They drink the rainwater. Yeah. The rain gives them the water. But what people in Africa do, what do people in India do? You know what I mean? Where they don't get a lot of rain.
Yeah, it's very difficult situation.
You've got to get the water there of some sorts. Whereas when you've got a far more accessible water, why not give it to them? Why not give it to veg?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can look at Pareto law as well, where it's like 20% of the richest people in the world own 80% of the resources, and vice versa. So, I definitely think we need to be looking at, I guess the likes of Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos to help solve these critical global issues. Because essentially they're the guys that are going to have the resources, the money, the capital, the power, the influence, and
for sure, a lot of it's the government as well, isn't it? The government, realistically, the biggest problems, to be blatantly honest, turning vegetarian isn't going to have the slightest, most minuscule impact really on climate change. But what it is doing is putting money, casting your little vote in the right direction of people that are looking to solve the problems. Do you know what I mean? Spending that little bit more on your diet to enjoy a vegetarian lifestyle. Spending your money, on different forms of transport, like getting the train, getting cycling, for example. It's doing that bit to head in the right direction, isn't it?
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, you are right. It is, if we're going to be tackling climate change, we've got to stop flying everywhere. My mate's dad flew to Venice the other day for a business meeting.
Which probably could have been done over Teams.
Like, yeah, it's just taking the piss a bit, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm a bit guilty. I want to go to Qatar.
But you're going there for business.
But I have to be there. Do you know what I mean? I couldn't do that from my house. We all want to go on holiday, but if you go in Europe, could you get a train? It might take a day on the train. But think about how enjoyable that train journey will be. Do you know what I mean? You'll go through. Maybe you want to go to the Netherlands. Stop off in Paris on the way. Stop off in London.
I wonder when they're going to start making electric planes.
They use biofuel for some of them, which is it's in the right direction. But talking about a plane journey can literally use as much. What is it, coal or oil? I don't know. Whatever it is that powers planes, petrol, uses a whole one flight. It's like a year's worth of driving a car. So it's like. That's huge. We've got to cut down as much as we're flying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, back to the vegetarian topic. You've also got, obviously, the dietary implications. It's a lot healthier. Generally, eating a lot more veggies, you're getting the right nutrients. It's a lot more practical, keeping your brain functioning properly. They do say that white meat increases the risk of colon cancer by about 3 times. Eating dairy-based produce increases the risk of prostate cancer by about 40 times. And it may also increase the risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, osteoporosis, and type 2 diabetes. Now again, with all of those, the more I kind of look into it, the more I think it is like having a piece of string. There isn't really any trustworthy data to kind of back that up. But that it's just another factor to consider when you're thinking about taking up vegetarian. Like, it's not going to do you any harm.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, is it? And then there's also the Game Changers documentary, which did you say you've watched?
No.
So that's really interesting, and it is a bit intense. I'll be honest. I've watched it a couple of times now, and the first time you just kind of taken back. You're like, this is just stupid. Like, come on, everyone doesn't like. They go on like everyone at the top level of sport is on a vegetarian diet.
Oh really?
Like Arnold Schwarzenegger's on it. Rip Esselstyn, who's like a long distance like Ironman runner. You know what I mean? He does all those like cycling.
But them guys
things. Jackie Chan's on it.
Yeah, they must still be getting like 5,000 calories a day.
Oh yeah. Obviously Mo Farah endorses corn meat, doesn't he?
He does. I have seen him on the adverts.
And that's really like interesting if you're into, performing at your peak, because people do say that athletes at the top level, a lot of them are on vegetarian diets, and it is actually a more practical way of eating.
Yeah.
He's like the world's strongest man at the moment. I can't remember his name, but he's on it.
He is.
Yeah, and he does does one of those clean presses,
Yeah.
biggest ever, and he hasn't ate meat in like the last 10 years.
Yeah, I mean,
It just makes you think, to be fair, doesn't it?
yeah, because obviously I naturally put, putting on muscle mass, you want to eat as much protein as you can, because the protein sort of restores muscle fibers and whatnot. So, and I just thought, you get protein through your meat, your chickens, your steaks, and whatnot. So, it's really interesting to know that we can essentially become the world's strongest man through through having a vegetarian diet.
It's true, it's quite surprising, isn't it? To be fair. And I think the idea is actually you can get those proteins a lot more efficiently from meatless things like eggs. Eggs, various protein shakes. I'm having a vegan protein shake at the moment, and it's got 20 grams of protein per, I think, 35 grams serving, which is the same as any other protein shake. But, you have 2 of those, 40 grams. You got half of your daily bulking.
Yeah, pancakes is always what I sort of go to when it comes to.
Yeah, pancakes, exactly. It's that's meatless, isn't it? Unless you have
but not
bacon with them.
meatless, but not vegan.
Yeah, true. Yeah, vegan is the next step, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Vegan would help, but again, when it comes to land mass, if you are still using those cows to produce milk and stuff like that, I've cut milk out. Milk hasn't really been very difficult for me, but it's great. Like, but yeah, with milk, you cut the. You're not just waiting for the bulking the animal up to the point of death to eat its meat. You can use it for its whole entire lifestyle to get those products out of it. But yeah, milk I haven't really struggled to give up. To be fair, I've been drinking almond milk, and it's just as good, if not better. But then also, as I said earlier, stuff on chickens. I think it was like 9 billion litres of water for chickens to produce a pound of chicken meat, whereas it was like 60 billion, I think, pounds of water for a cow. So it's thinking about what meats are better. I think if an animal walks about on 2 legs, it's generally requires a lot less resources basically to get it up to the point of it being edible.
What about like an ostrich?
It's a good question. I don't know. Have you ever tried ostrich?
No, I haven't.
No, yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't really know what the logic is behind that, to be honest.
Would it not just come down to the size of the animal?
Essentially, maybe that stat is just a bit skewed by the fact 4-legged animals are generally a bit bigger. Yeah, but I think a pig's pretty bad as well. Off the top of my head, you'd have to don't quote me on that. That's what they say. That's all of my notes on vegetarianism, to be fair. It's lasted a lot longer. I thought it was only going to be 15 minutes.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is an interesting topic, to be fair, which, we could probably talk about all day.
Yeah, I mean, that was all just factual information. Well, near enough.
Yeah, which is important to know. It is important.
Yeah, I hope there that we have given it a decent amount of whys for people to be like, yeah, do you know what, I will consider it, and I will try and do 2 days a week vegetarian maybe.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if you don't try it, you won't know if it's something you can sustain or if it's something that you actually prefer.
Yeah, and we'll go on to it in the next episode. The next podcast, I will go into detail on how to become a vegetarian. So say someone's gone out of that and they've like, they've been like, nah, true, I am kind of on board with some of those ideas, but I do just like my bacon too much. That's what some people say, innit? Like, I like my bacon, I couldn't do it. But I'm going to go on to in the next episode talking about how to become a vegetarian. So, you know, it's, yeah, I'll go into, you've got like Andy Ramage's work on making habits stick, James Prochaska's work on models of change and behavioural change, stages of change, which is really good. That's like talking about how when you are trying to make a change in your life, it's like a spiral. So people think it's like a circle, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So you go and you're on a circle that's just, you know, trying to make that change, keep going around. But when you break that circle, it's finished.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know. Say for example, you went and had a beef burger or something when you're out, when you're vegetarian. You're like, I've done it before with exercise regimes, and you miss a session. You're like, I'm never going to be able to do this. You know what I mean?
But a night out for me was always what broke the routine, my sort of workout routine.
And then it takes a week or 2 weeks to get back into it.
Yeah.
But he talks about it as it's not a basic circle like that can be broken. It's if that circle gets broken, it's like a spiral.
Mm.
And it's all about working your way in and closing it off, making like continuous progress till you get to that point where you don't even think about having meat anymore.
Yeah.
That's a good one. And then we both read James Clear's Atomic Habits, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
So if you are around for the next podcast, we can discuss that a bit. That's changed my life definitely. Also enabled me to completely cut smoking out of my diet, which is obviously a lot worse for you than being vegetarian, being a carnivore. So yeah, hopefully people are excited for that. I don't know if you're excited.
Yeah,
So if you are umming and ahhing about being veggie, then boom, come back next week and we'll put together a how episode, and before you know it, you'll be a happy, jolly vegetarian like me and George.
Is it one of them? Thanks for watching.
Please like,
subscribe.
You got to give your first. You got to give your favourite 3 songs.
Favourite 3 songs.
Yeah, of the week.
Yes. So I've been listening to Churchill Down by Jack Harlow featuring Drake. Drake has just released his new album, so I think one of the songs on there, Text Go Green, something like that. Let me just double check the name of the song.
I'll do right down. I'll give mine while he's.
I've got the last one. I've been listening to Green Velvet Voicemail as well. That's an absolute banger. Yeah, Text Go Green by Drake. Really good tune.
My 3 for this week are due to it being Father's Day. I've been listening to the Eagles quite a bit, and who are my dad's favourite band, and I like in particular their song "Take It Easy." Also went to an Ed Sheeran concert last week, which was banging. So I've been listening to his album Equals quite a lot. My favourite song on that is Overpass Graffiti. And then I've been getting back into house a bit recently, so picked out my favourite house tune, which is Only If You're Happy by Sweely. So yeah, we'll see you soon to learn how to become a vegetarian.